Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Tuesday, the 30th of October, 2012. I'm Tony Paniagua. In recent days, we've been hearing some encouraging news about the housing industry nationwide, which is a vital part of the country's economy and financial recovery. Next, Andrea Kelly has an interview about the local situation.
Joining us in the studio now is David Godlewski, president of the Southern Arizona Home Builders Association. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me today.
I've asked you to come in to give us a little bit of an update on the housing market. So how are we doing in the Tucson metropolitan area now?
Things are looking good. Certainly think that overall we kind of have a mixed market. There are a lot of positive indicators. Certainly from the new construction side, single-family residential permits are up year over year, trending in the right direction. We hope to have about 2,000 single-family residential permits this year. That's up from about 1,500 last year. On the resale side, things look very good as well. There's a lot of activity, particularly at the lower levels of the market, but we're starting to see some increases in the high end, and things are trending in the right direction.
So obviously we're coming out of years of slump, years of down markets. So are we slowly improving, or are we seeing a dramatic improvement this year?
I would say we're slowly recovering. It has been a difficult 4 or 5 years. If you take a look at where we're at in terms of activity, we're up probably about 25% year over year in new construction. We have been bumping along the bottom. It's not a significant increase, but like I said, it's going in the right direction, and hopefully that's a signal that things will be sustainable and we'll continue to work our way out of this economic situation and on the way to better days ahead.
Do you have any indications on how the market works when you're looking at resale versus new home construction? What drives those decisions?
If you take a look at the decision-making factors, people who are looking for new homes certainly like the energy efficiency associated with new homes. They like the ability to customize the different features of their new home. Also, the foreclosures have a lot to do with the decision-making process. Foreclosures tend to have a lot of upkeep or maintenance that's required to bring those homes into good condition. There is obviously a lot of activity on the resale side, but as the standing resale inventory continues to decrease, we'll see more buyers who decide to choose a new home over a resale.
You mentioned foreclosures. Is that what we're seeing more in the resale market as opposed to where someone's living in their home and trying to sell it?
I think Tucson's actually done a very good job about working its way through the foreclosure and short sale inventory. That's a positive sign that the market is recovering. We have seen indications that the number of foreclosure sales and foreclosure filings are decreasing, and so that's a natural part of the housing market. And as we work through those foreclosures and then work through the standing resale, it will lead to a better and more improved market.
A little bit longer term, how are we looking in terms of foreclosure? Are we expected to keep seeing foreclosures hit the market? Are we almost through that? Should there be a spike? What are you thinking there?
A lot of the experts were predicting that third quarter 2012 would be a tipping point when it came to the foreclosures. Time will obviously tell if that is the case. Most of the people that I have talked to are optimistic that we've really kind of worked our way through the foreclosures, or at least in terms of the new foreclosures coming on the market. It's obviously a lot higher than where it was during a healthy market during the boom times here in southern Arizona, but we are moving in the right direction, and hopefully in the next 6 months to a year we'll have a better idea where we stand in the foreclosures.
Now, next week we've got the election. A lot of people are looking forward to that being over. What's the impact that could have on the housing market? I've heard people say that could play a role.
Absolutely. You tend to hear that people are keeping the money on the sidelines, waiting to see what the outcome of the election is. Obviously, there is going to be a turning point one way or another, either at the 4 more years of the same administration or 4 years of a new administration. Conventional wisdom, and most people are speculating that if Mr. Romney wins in November, that we'll have a more improved economy, a better housing market, but only time will tell. It's my hope that regardless of the outcome of the election, Tucson, southern Arizona, and the state continues to make progress in terms of the housing market and the overall economy.
Is there any light at the end of the tunnel in terms of recovering some of the pricing that we saw 6 years ago, 7 years ago?
I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. We're starting to see some increases on the resale side. We've seen closings and sale prices that are up about 20% year over year. You're starting to see increase in the average and median new home price as well. So things are going in the right direction, but it's a tough road, and only time will tell how much we recover.
You don't have a crystal ball.
I wish I did.
So you're saying that the pricing is improving. That's also related to the foreclosures, correct?
Absolutely. As we work through those foreclosures in the lower end of the housing market, prices will increase. As things get better on a national and statewide economic scale, we'll start to see prices increase. I'm optimistic about the market in Tucson. I think Tucson is a destination location. People will want to be here as things get better across the country. As retirees look to move, I think Tucson's a place that will pop up on their radar.
Now, for somebody who's considering selling a home or buying a home or getting into the market, what's a good way to tell where we are? We've talked about resale, we've talked about new construction, we've talked about foreclosures and the election. Mm-hmm. How do you pin down what's happening? It's
a very difficult decision, but I think we've been bumping along the market. We are seeing some increases, and now's a great time to buy. We have record low interest rates, and so I think if you're interested in buying a new home, you should go out there and take a look, whether that's a new home or a resale home.
David Godlewski, president of the Southern Arizona Home Builders Association, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
The general election is just 1 week away, and while residents in Arizona will get to vote for dozens of local, state, and federal candidates, they'll also get a chance to make decisions about propositions that will have an impact on your lives and our state. Next, Michael Chihak has an interview about Proposition 114. It's a proposed amendment to the Constitution by the legislature relating to crime victim protection from liability for damages.
E.J. Perkins, policy analyst for the Morrison Institute for Public Policy. Thanks for being with me.
Pleasure to be here.
Proposition 114, what's it all about?
Well, basically, it will protect a victim of a crime from being sued by an alleged criminal during the commission of a crime. And the crime we're talking about are just felony crimes. And this thing is really just designed to protect the victim from being taken advantage of from an alleged criminal.
And what are the key arguments for that? Because there already are statutes in place in Arizona that would purport to do that. But why is a constitutional amendment needed from the point of view of the proponents?
Well, that's the very point that's being raised. Opponents to the proposition argue that the statutes already on the books are sufficient and do not require a constitutional remedy. However, the people who are behind the proposition believe that crime victims are exposed to frivolous lawsuits or the potential to be exposed to frivolous lawsuits. And that's the central thrust of it. Arizona's Constitution is strongly worded in terms of protecting the right to sue. And the current statutes safeguard victims' rights is too easily overturned, could too easily be overturned in court. And so that worries a lot of the folks that are behind the proposition.
And who is behind it? It obviously came out of the Republican legislature to get onto the ballot. So conservatives?
Principally conservatives. This was passed largely along partisan lines, and it may grow. Some of this comes out of the larger arena in terms of tort reform. Some people see this as an effort to advance that particular agenda that stems from tort reform.
And tort reform being the general movement away from allowing people to sue for just about any reason, making it more difficult to file lawsuits.
Yes.
And who are the opponents to Proposition 114? You said the vote in the legislature split largely along party lines. So is that Democrats and liberals on the other side of it?
One could say it's primarily progressives that are opposed to this, although it's not strictly along party lines. I suspect there are Republicans out there that would be uneasy with this as well. This is another instance where there's concern about we have statutes on the books. They should be adequate for the job, but yet we're adding yet another layer of constitutional restrictions on something that may not be needed.
And then what would the unintended consequences of it be? Did you take a look at that in your analysis?
A bit. One point that came up during my own research was that there's a possibility that this could get out of control. That if should the measure pass in November, you've got something on the books now that's in the Constitution that a good, smart constitutional lawyer could take to court and change crime victim to corporation. And now you've got an entirely different interpretation of what this measure could mean. And the smart lawyer will know how to manipulate that in court. And so that's not to say that they could, but the possibility exists that this could be misconstrued to mean something else and used for other purposes. And therefore, we're potentially getting on a slippery slope to unintended consequences.
So for the voter, it behooves the average person, before making a decision on how to vote on this, to study it carefully and listen to both sides.
I'd look very closely at this as well. The concerns that the advocates raise are legitimate. There is the possibilities that they raise do exist. However, in my own research, I have not found any actual cases of a victim being successfully sued by a criminal. So that's something else to bear in mind.
E.J. Perkins, policy analyst for the Morrison Institute. Thanks for speaking with me about Proposition 114.
Thank you.
Michael Chihak has another interview now about a different proposition. This one is 115, and it's a proposed amendment to the Arizona Constitution by the state's legislature relating to the Judicial Department.
Professor Hessig, thanks so much for being with me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Please tell us, what is the gist of Proposition 115? What would it change in the current system?
Right. So the proposition changes a number of things with respect to the selection of judges and justices in the state and the term that those judges and justices will serve. So as for the selection process seems to be the part that everyone's talking about. Right now, the judges are picked by through a merit selection process where there's a committee that picks 3 people, forwards them to the governor, and then the governor picks from among those. One change is that the committee will now put forward 8 names instead of 3, or at least 8 names, and it can do more. Another change is in the makeup of the committee. Right now, the committee consists of 10 non-attorneys and 5 attorneys, but the 5 attorneys are largely picked by the state bar. Under the proposition, the change would be that the governor would pick 4 of those 5 attorneys, and the last attorney would be picked by the state bar.
Now, there are those who say that that's introducing politics into the system. Do you see it that way?
Well, I mean, to some degree, sure, because it means that the governor, who is a political actor and belongs to a particular party, will have more control over who's on the committee, and then those committee members are going to pick more judges, presumably, that are that have views consistent with their views. And I think tied in with that, there's another provision that says that the names that the committee puts forward, the 8 names, there is no limit on how many are of a particular party. Under the current rule right now, there has to be a diversification of party among the finalists.
Now, some have called this a compromise between the legal community and the legislature and the governor. Legal community on one side, legislature and governor on the other. Have you heard that, and what was the compromise here?
So I have heard that. I'm not precisely sure what the compromise was because I'm not sure what the starting positions were. But I will say that the judiciary always raises an important point in that the judiciary needs to be independent to some degree, but at the same time, we don't want the judiciary completely independent because we're a democracy. We like rule by the people. So there's always a bit of tension between how much independence the judges should have and how much political oversight there should be of the judges. So I imagine the compromise is essentially between two different groups with two different views about how much independence and how much oversight there should be.
Now, there are those who say that Arizona's system is already highly regarded nationally for the way it picks judges. Two questions about that. First of all, do you agree with that assessment that Arizona's system is a good one?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's from not only my experience with them and talking with them and seeing the rulings and cases, but also from talking with people across the country about their views of their respective state judiciaries.
And then second, how would Proposition 115 change that? Would there be less regard for it? Would the merit part of it be in threat in any way?
So I think that some people think that's possible because, as you said, there's a chance for more sort of partisan politics to come into it. But I don't think that it's very likely, or at least to the extent that there is an effect, I think it'll be pretty small. The selection process here is still by merit, as opposed to, say, by election. When one of the great concerns with the judiciary is that when you have elections, the judges that are picked more in terms of popularity instead of based on their merit, their abilities, their knowledge of the law. Here, yes, we might have more politics introduced into the process, but it's still a merit selection board. And I have to say, Phoenix and Arizona generally, there are a lot of people in it, and there's a pretty sizable legal market. There are a lot of good attorneys who would be good judges and good justices in both parties.
What would you say to the average voter in Arizona about what he or she should be looking for in connection with this, which to the average voter might look like just a squabble among politicians and lawyers? What's at stake for the average voter?
Right. For the average voter, I'm not sure that much is at stake. As I was sort of suggesting in what I was just saying, I don't know that this will affect the quality of the judiciary very much. I still think that we still have a merit selection system. I still think that very good judges and justices will come out of the process. I guess to the average voter, the question is how much sort of control do they want over the judiciary? There's one other provision that we haven't talked about yet, which goes towards the retention votes. Arizona has a system right now where voters vote on we'll just talk about the justices every 6 years. That time is being extended to 8 years under the proposition, but another provision says that the legislature can take testimony on the justices before that vote comes up. Some people say that's an intrusion on independence, and it is to some degree in that there could be hearings on why precisely a justice ruled a particular way. On the other hand, it does result in more information being available to the voters so that they can make more informed decisions on retention.
Professor Andy Hessek, Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law, thanks so much for speaking with me today.
Well, thank you.
When you stop and think about it, the pipe organ plays an important musical role in many different kinds of occasions. From places of worship that host both weddings and funerals to sporting events and live theater, musicians who specialize in playing the organ can find their talents in high demand. There's an organization of organ enthusiasts right here in southern Arizona, and here is Mark McLemore to tell us more.
Joining me now, representing the American Guild of Organists, Southern Arizona chapter, we have Stardust Johnson. Nice to meet you, Stardust.
Nice to meet you, too. It's a pleasure to be here.
And David Haar. You're both performers on the organ, and in this group, you support its activities here in southern Arizona. About how many members do you have, David?
We have, I think, 66 or so members this year. There are organists, pianists, music directors like Stardust. I'm an organist. I'm the organist at St. Mark's Presbyterian Church here in Tucson. But it is mostly organists, but other musicians as well.
And what sort of activities does the Guild sponsor here in southern Arizona?
You're the program person.
That's right. We sponsor a variety of activities, organ recitals by local performers, as well as bringing in national artists. We have choral workshops, organ workshops. We have a choral workshop coming up this spring, and we have also a performance service music workshop coming up. And then we also have meetings where we just get together and have a good time. Mm-hmm. Just this past September 30th, we had our opening meeting where we participated in recognizing a beautiful new instrument in Tucson, the Fritz organ. It's a tracker instrument at St. Albans Episcopal Church. Very beautiful. You should go see it.
Well, it sounds like you have a list. You know all the important organs in the state. There are many around, I guess. Tell us about some other highlights of sort of the state's organ collection.
Well, what do you want to say about that? We do have some beautiful instruments in Tucson and more in Phoenix, as you might imagine, because it's a bigger metropolitan area. But some of the larger ones in Tucson are at Catalina Methodist Church, mm-hmm. the University of Arizona Holsclaw Hall, which is an absolutely stunning instrument, Northminster, where I'm the director of music, the Quimby Roy Johnson Memorial Organ. Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness, St. Michael's, Grace St. Paul.
St. Philip's in the Hills.
St. Philip's.
David, tell me a little bit about how you got involved with this instrument. What's the appeal for you?
Oh, golly. The organ is often referred to as the king of the instruments. I started playing it when I was 14 years old because it fascinated me, the variety of sounds that you can make out of it. I'd played a piano, and pianos are fine, but they're limited, and I was just fascinated by all the different kinds of sounds that an organ can make. String sounds, flutes, brass, trumpets, and trombones. It's just an amazing variety.
The many voices. Stardust, yes. What for you would you say? What was your introduction to the instrument?
I'm not actually an organist, although I love the organ and I was married to the organ professor, so naturally I was interested in the organ. However, I first became interested, like David, when I was about 14, when the pastor at the church where I sang in the choir said, "Would you like to see the organ?" And I was very naive and unknowledgeable, and I thought it was that console. And then he said, "Oh, no, you have to go back here in the chambers." And lo and behold, there were all of these hundreds of pipe arrayed on boards, with air going through them. And I said, "Wow, this is amazing." And it is amazing. It's an amazing instrument, ancient, amazing instrument, which really reached its perfection almost in about the 18th century, except for electricity, which we now have available. Mm-hmm. But not everybody even wants electricity now.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because before the interview, I did ask, are all organs electric? And you both immediately responded, no, obviously they predate electricity. So maybe you can explain a mechanism that drove an organ pre-electricity.
Well, originally there were bellows operated by hand, either a long rod that people would actually just pump up and down.
Right, and that wasn't the organist. Yeah. The organist sat at the keyboard. Else. This was another person who had to create the flow of air.
A two-person instrument.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about this event that you have coming up on the 18th of November.
We have the annual showcase recital. It's about our 22nd annual showcase recital, I think. And it features 3 members of our local chapter who are going to be performing a variety of pieces. One of the performers, Fern Heeb, is actually going to be performing pieces by Marilyn Reinhardt, who is recently deceased and who composed a fair amount for choirs and for organ. And so this will be a tribute to Marilyn and honoring her. And her husband, Carol Reinhardt, was the TUSD music guru for many, many years.
Well, tell people where and when this event will be.
It's at Northminster Presbyterian Church, November 18th, 3 o'clock. Northminster is at Fort Lowell and Tucson Boulevard, and it's our annual not only showcase recital but fundraising event. And it will be a really wonderful program. And one of the unique things that happens at Northminster is that we're able to project the performance to the front, so people, because the organ is in the back, and people can see the hands and the feet, and they just love that.
Well, thanks so much for telling us about this and sharing your enthusiasm for this great instrument. David Stardust, so nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
In tonight's video postcard from photographer John Dinayazi and editor Laura Taflinger, we take you to Old Tucson's biggest annual event. It's called Nightfall, and it's held every weekend in October with haunted sets, live comedy, and more.
And I want you to, have this really creepy movement about you and, sneak around the people. It's really about freaking out the guests.
From the top, go!
Howdy, I'm Rob Jensen, entertainment manager for Old Tucson Studios, and I am on the set of Happyland Fun Park for Nightfall 2012, now in its 22nd year here in Tucson, Arizona. It's become such a large project for us that we work on it year-round, with planning beginning the day after Halloween each and every year. We try to get the ideas and scripts completed nice and early so that we can do construction in the springtime and begin rehearsals in the summertime. We also have a large hiring fair each year for Nightfall and bring in upwards of 100 extra people for the month of October.
I assure you, in this festival of phantasm, there's much to do.
When you put together an event that draws 40,000 people in a month's time, it takes a lot of different departments to pull all that together. You've got script writers, you've got show directors, you've got costume builders, prop builders, set builders, construction people, food and beverage people, special effects. It's all got to come together seamlessly.
Enjoy your stay here at Nightfall 2012.
You can crack that whip. Now get out of here! Whatever you want to do there. There's some closing.
Scram!
Good.
Coming up tomorrow night, we'll continue introducing you to the propositions in this year's Arizona ballot, and you'll meet the executive director of the National Immigrant Farming Initiative. Hear what the program is all about. I'm Tony Paniagua. From all of us at Arizona Public Media, have a great night.